YouTube channel Coding Gigs. So let's talk about functions today. So what are we going to discuss? We're going to discuss what is the definition of a function, what is return type, what is a function calling, why do we need function, what is the working process of a function, role of a stack, local and global scope, pass by value. So these are certain kind of terminologies that we use in a program which might be complicated for you as a beginner, but don't worry, I'm going to cover all of them in a very simple, easy and a detailed way. So let's start with the function definition. Okay, now before reading the definition of a function, I'm going to code something. Okay, so let's say I'm taking a variable a is equals to 2 and int b is equals to 3, and I want to perform certain kind of calculation. In my case, it could be a summation, a simple sum. Okay, so I will store it and I'll perform the calculation and I'll print out the value of a sum. So obviously the answer would be 5. 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. Nothing rocket science, right? So this is the thing which we have done. Now let's say I want to perform summation again one more time. So what do I have to do? I have to create again two variables. C is equals to 3 and int d is equals to 4, and then again in some variable I will store the value of c and d. I'll perform the calculation and I'll print the value of sum again. Okay, so let's see what will be the answer. 5 and 7. Okay, and then next line, 5 and 7. First, some value was holding the value of 2 and 3. It will perform the calculation. It has given us the answer as 5. Next, 3 and 4. 3 plus 4 is equals to 7. Okay. Now let's say again I have to perform the summation calculation. What we are doing over here, if you carefully observe, we are performing a same task again and again. In task 1, we had performed the same summation task. Again in task 2, what we have done, we have again performed the summation task again. So one particular task is being performed again and again. And to perform that particular task, in our case is summation, we have to create n number of variables. That n number of variables will be passed to the sum variable and then the calculation will be done. Now this is some kind of a tedious job. Okay, and it is also exploiting our memory. Now, to avoid this problem, we are going to look on to this function. Now, what this function does, this function will perform certain kind of task. Okay, and it will provide us the value. Okay, in our case, it was a summation, right? So, what is the definition of function? Function is a set of instruction. So, it is a kind of a container which will contain some kind of instructions that we need to perform. In our case, it could be a summation. Okay, to perform a specific task, we define a container. Okay, and inside that container, we define certain kind of rules and we try to accomplish that task. Okay, so in order to accomplish that particular task, what we do is we accept certain kind of inputs. Okay, that inputs are called as parameters. Here you can see that inputs are called as parameters. Certain kind of logical computational part will be done and then a value will be returned to us. Okay, so it will generate an output which will be a return value. Okay, it will take an input as a parameter and it will generate an output. This is the definition of a function. Okay, now how do we define a function? What will be the syntax of a function? First, we define a return type. It could be integer, it could be a character, it could be a float, anything. The data type must be specified in C++. Okay, so first will be the return type, which means that whatever logical calculations will be performed, the final value, what kind of that final value is, which data type it belongs to, that we need to specify first. Suppose I am performing a summation. Summation is providing me the answer which is an integer type. So that output is a return value. That return value is of integer type. That integer type must be defined in first. first block over here. Okay. Next, you're going to specify the function name. In our case, it could be a summation or subtraction or any kind of calculations that we need to perform. That function name must be specified. The inputs will be in the form of parameters. These parameters will also, let's say, will be specified with the help of a data type. First, you need to specify the data type. It could be integer. So int and the parameter name, let's say a in our case, comma int b. So this will be parameters which will hold, this function will hold parameters. Okay. Here will be the scope of your function. Certain statements or codes will be specified. So this is the overall syntax of a function. Okay, let's move on. Now, what is a return type? Okay, so here you can see in my screen that we have created a function, right? We are defining a function. Okay, so first the return type, which is integer. Next is the name of the function. Next is two parameters which we are providing to the function. Okay, and the parameters are also of integer type. Why we have written here int? Because the final return value will be of integer type. That is why we have provided int. Okay. Next, we are specifying the calculations that we are going to perform. So here x into y is certain kind of calculation that we are going to perform. We are writing it over here. And after calculation, the final return value will be the product variable, and that product variable is of integer type. Okay, so this is the return, which is a keyword that we need to specify. Because why do we need to specify this return keyword? Because it is returning something, right? Whenever you want to return something, you always have to specify the return as a keyword. If you're not returning anything, you don't have to specify. So that is the case where it comes as a void. Okay, so whenever we, instead of this integer data type, whenever we are specifying void as a parameter, we don't specify this return keyword, because void means what? Void means a space. Okay, nothing. Void means nothing. So that is why we don't have to specify return keyword in this case. Okay, in this void case. Okay, let's see what is the definition, what we have written in the screen. So a function may produce a return value. Obviously, here in our case, a product is producing a return value. The return type of a function is the data type of the value it returns. Obviously, product return type is integer. That is why we are returning that particular type of data type. Okay, in our case is integer data type is the value which has been returned. Okay, in some cases we don't specify return value. Okay, we don't return any value. Okay, but that case would be the void. Okay, void would be such kind of case. In our case, in this case, we are specifying a return value, which is of integer. Okay, in most of the cases, we don't specify the return value or return type. So at that time, we don't specify return as a keyword. Okay, so let's see with the help of an example. Okay, so as I was talking about function. Okay, so I'll create a function. First, I'll specify the return type. Sum is the function name. I'm going to take two parameters, int a, comma int b. I'm going to perform the calculation. So how will be the calculation? Int sum1 is equals to a plus b, and it's going to return me the value of sum1. Okay, and then over here I'm going to take values from the user. So int a, comma b. C in A, C in B. I'm going to store this sum function value, whatever the logical calculations has been done. It is going to return me a certain kind of value. That return value will be stored in the form of a variable. Okay. So in our case, the variable name, I'm going to give it as answer. Okay. It will store the function here. Function will be called. Okay. Function will be called. I'm going to pass those parameters a, comma b, and then I'm going to print the value of answer. 2 is the first value, 3 is the second value, 5 is the answer. Simple. So in this case, why are we using this function? Because suppose I want to perform this again, same kind of thing again. Okay, so again I don't have to write this particular logical calculations again. Okay, only once I have defined it and I can use it anytime, anywhere in my code. Okay, again let's say I want to perform a calculation of two variables, 4 and 5. So 9. Again, I don't have to specify two variables again and again. Okay, only once I have defined the function, that function will be called over here. That calculation will be performed, and that particular answer you will be getting over here. Simple. That is why we use a function. So this is the return type. Okay. In our case, we are returning someone. That someone value is of type integer. Okay, that is why we have specified this keyword return. Okay, we are returning something. One more case could be void, which I was speaking about. Let's say greet. Okay, it is not taking any parameters. Simply it is printing hello. Okay, I'll call this function greet. 2 and 3, 5 and hello. Right. So when we had defined the greet as a function, we are not returning anything. That is why we have not specified the return keyword. Okay, now you might get confused that here we have used a variable and here we are storing the function value, return value. Why we have not used here a variable? This is a valid question. Now see, always remember whenever you're returning something, either you can call that function over here and you can simply use a cout as a statement. Okay, cout as a statement and you can specify this part. Okay, you don't have to create a specific, what do we say? A specific function, a specific variable to store the return value of this function. Okay, you don't have to do that. What you can do is simply use the cout statement, use this sum as a function, okay, and just print the value. Or else, why in my case, why I have created this answer as a variable? Because I want to print the value of this summation. So whenever you want to print the value, that is why we have used the variable as answer. And whenever you are not doing anything, simply call the function. You don't have to create a separate variable or you don't have to specify cout and then you use this operator and then you call the function. You don't have to do anything. Only remember that when you're using a void, simply call it like this. And when you're using this type of function where return type has been specified, then you need to create a variable, you need to store it, and you need to print that particular variable to see what answer you're getting from here. Okay, so that is called as a return type. Next is a function calling. Now, what is a function calling? We have created a function. We went to the main function. We had taken two variables. Okay. So here return type. This is the function name. These are the parameters, which is the input, obviously. Here calculation has been performed. Which calculations are performed? By specifying this variables value 10 and 20. Okay. You have created a C as a variable. Okay. This variable C will provide you the output of this product returned value. Okay. So this is called as a function calling. This always remember in a program or C++ program, your execution starts from the main function. Main is also a function. Okay. So from main function, your execution will start line by line. What we have specified first, we have specified two variables of integer type. Int a is equals to 10, int b is equals to 20. Now this will act as an input for this function, which is find product. Okay, now find product function will take these two values, okay, 10 and 20 in the form of variables, okay, and that value will be passed over here. Okay, a copy of this value will be passed over here as a parameters. Okay, So here 10 and 20 got copied. 10 into 20 is equals to 200. This 200 value is of integer type. This product will return the value over here. Okay, so this product will return the value over here. Find product. That value, returned value, will be stored in the variable called as C, and you are finally printing the value of C, which is 200. So what is a function calling? Function calling is this part. This is called as a function calling. Okay, whenever you call a function, you need to keep in mind four things. First is the name of the function. Second is the number of parameters that is used by that particular function. Third is the data type of the function. Fourth is the return value of that particular function. Okay, first is the name of the function, number of parameters, data types, and the return value by the function. These four things you need to keep in mind whenever you are calling a particular function. Okay, so this is called as function calling, which means that main function is calling find product. Okay, then here it will go, it will perform the calculation and it will return you the value. Fine. This is called as function calling. Next is why do we need a function? First is reusability. In the start of the lecture, I created two variables. Int a is equals to 2, int b is equals to 3. Again, I had to perform that same summation task. Again, I have to define two variables. So we are doing the same task again and again. So in order to avoid this, we create one function. We have defined a summation as a function and we can reuse it again and again multiple times. So this is first thing, it is saving our time. Second, it is also saving our efforts. Okay, so we don't have to push or provide efforts again and again. Okay, put efforts again and again. Okay, so first is reusability. Second is neat code. Let's say you are doing a project with another programmer. Okay, you're yourself a programmer and you're collaborating with another programmer. Now you have created a certain kind of program, you have written some n lines of code. Okay, now you need to explain that n lines of code to another programmer with whom you have collaborated. Now it will be now that programmer would have to read the code whatever you have written. Okay, so when you define a function, it is easy for another programmer to understand what actually you have written, what actual work you have done. Okay. Okay. Instead of doing some same number of lines of code, you're specifying n number of times. You have created one particular function. There you have performed the calculation, and then you are using it in your program. So it is a neat kind of thing. Neatness is also one of the aspect of writing a function. Okay. Next is modularization. Modularization means it helps us to manage a task, which is a complex task, into smaller and an organized way. Let's say you have given a very complex task, which is a large amount of task. You will break it into smaller parts. Okay, now it is helpful for you to manage those smaller tasks in a very organized way. So modularization comes into picture. Next is easy debugging. Whenever you come across with errors, so it actually this functions, it helps you to debug your code in a very efficient way. First is reusability, second is neat code, third is modularization, which means managing a task in a smaller parts, and third is easy debugging. That is whenever you encounter an error, it would be helpful for you to easily find out where actually your error lies in the code. So that is why we require functions. Okay. Next, what is the working process of a function? We have just now we have created two functions. One was a summation, next was a greet function. We called that function a main part. Okay, that is the main function, and then the process went. But it might have got bouncer to you all. So we'll try to understand that what is the working process of a function. Okay. Now see, first is you specify a greet as a function. Okay. Next, what do? You will call that function over here, greet as a function. Okay. Then this main function will execute certain lines of code. You will come over here. You will call this function. This function will go over here. It will execute certain kind of task which has been specified inside this code. It will come over here. It will provide you the value. And then again next line of the code will be perform. Okay, so that is called as working process. Now what I have written over here, function which has been called is called as callee. Okay, so this is called as callee, which means this function has been called. In our case, it is greet, and function which calls the function. Okay, callee which calls the callee is called as caller. So in our case, main is the caller. Okay, and callee is greet, which has been called. Right. So till now we have studied about what is a function, what is the definition of a function. We have used the function. We have seen what is a return type, what is the contribution of a return keyword in a function. We have seen what is a function calling, okay, how many parameters or what are the aspects or points we need to keep in mind whenever we are calling a function in the main function. Okay, then we have seen why do we require functions, why do we need to use functions in a program. Okay, the working process, what is a callee, what is a caller. So this was all about functions. In the next video, we are going to learn about the role of a stack in a function, what is a local and a global scope, pass by value. I hope that you have understood whatever we have discussed in today's video. Please like, subscribe to my channel, and if you have any doubts, I repeat, you can please comment it and I'll definitely try to solve it as soon as possible. Code as well as the notes will be provided in the description box. Do check it out and please subscribe to my YouTube channel for the upcoming videos. Thank you.